Hello and welcome back to another KCC video. I'm Rob and today we'll be jumping into I Don't Work Here Lady. Before we start, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you know when the next video goes live. Our first story today comes to us from Mythical Ace. I'm looking at the nutrition facts, not stocking the shelves. Let's jump right in. There have been a few times when people have stopped me to ask if I work there, but I've always just been able to say, no, sorry, and that's always the end of it. But today, that wasn't the case at all. This is one of those ordeals that never actually happens in the real world, or so I thought. This is what actually happens when things get out of hand. So, a bit of background about me. I'm a bodybuilder and powerlifter, and nutrition is very important to what I do. Whenever I go shopping, I like to check the nutrition labels on ingredients and food I'm interested in. That way, I can eat enough food to be hungry without sacrificing flavor and still fitting it into my daily calorie intake. As you can imagine, I will check multiple different versions of the same ingredients in an aisle and put them back as I search for the best option. Well, earlier today, I went on a pretty big restock for the house. I also found a bunch of new recipes that I want to try, some of which called for some ingredients I don't work with often. For the most part, the store wasn't too busy, and nobody really bothered me as I walked up and down each aisle. I also had some earbuds in and my phone out with my shopping list on it. Keep in mind also that I'm wearing a tank top and sweatpants, which you're probably not going to get away with wearing as a grocery store employee. As I'm looking through the spices in the baking aisle, I hear someone yelling over my music. It was kind of surprising since I listened to it pretty loud. So I took an earbud out and looked around, and this lady just said to me, "Can't even believe they let employees wear those stupid things." I cut her off and said, "I wouldn't know because I don't work here." This seemed to upset her greatly, as she got really aggressive when she responded by saying, "Don't effing lie to me. I've seen you stocking the shelves. I'm a paying customer, and you need to help me right now." I'm a very easygoing guy, but when a random stranger speaks to me like this, I'm not going to put up with it. So I said, "I don't have to do shit, especially if you talk to me like that. Get lost." She lost something, that's for sure. She yelled, "Excuse me, how the F dare you?" I just turned to walk away at that point. All of a sudden, she grabs the back of my tank top, and I yank myself away saying, "WTF, lady, don't touch me." She takes a couple steps back, probably realizing that I am not the kind of person you want to pick a fight with. "Fine then, I'm finding a manager. Say goodbye to your job, you lazy, useless piece of shit." I was already putting my earbud back in, so I just said, "Whatever, lady, bye." I grabbed my spices as she walked off in a huff and continued my shopping. I wasn't even wearing what employees at this store wear. Like, how could I possibly be mistaken for an employee? I seriously cannot stress enough how much I don't look like I work there. A couple minutes later, I'm in the next aisle over, and I see her again with a manager. I don't hear what she's saying because I've got my music on, but with the way she was pointing her finger, I'd imagine she was probably saying that I'm the one who didn't help her. They started walking up, and I took both earbuds out this time. Manager approaches me, and I hear the lady saying, "He should be fired for cussing at me and threatening me." Manager is like, "Yeah, he doesn't work here. He's wearing a tank top. That's definitely against dress code." Well, anywhere. She didn't like that answer. "Then why is he restocking your shelves?" I chime in and say, "I'm comparing calories in foods and picking the best ones to stay healthy. Maybe you should try it sometime. You definitely look like you need it." She stands there for a moment with this expression on her face that looked like her brain didn't process what I just said. Then she gets surprisingly calm. It was getting kind of pathetic at that point, at least I thought so, but the manager actually seemed to side with her and said, "Still, I can't have anyone assaulting people in my store." Whoa, what? I must have missed the part where she said I assaulted her. So I ask him to repeat himself, and he explains that it is a criminal offense to assault someone, and that the police could get involved. Lady goes from pissed off to real smug, like I'm about to get it. "Good," I said. "Call them down here. I'll wait. I know this store has security cameras on every aisle, and I'm so sick of people like her getting away with this level of entitlement that I really did wait. Police show up a few more minutes later. We go to a back office in the store, and they're really grilling me, asking me why I would attack someone, if I was on any drugs, etc. I'm kind of used to this treatment. People take one look at me and just assume I'm some meathead bodybuilder with roid rage. I answer all their questions by saying, "Look at the security footage, it'll answer all your questions." The more I said it, the more frustrated they got. Finally, they leave the room. I just wait there patiently for about 45 minutes. Then they come back and apologize. "The manager told us you assaulted her. We should have checked the footage, but you do fit the profile." I then say, "Why? Because I have bigger muscles than most people? Is that a crime?" They know they can't really say or do much about it since they made some pretty big assumptions. If you'd like, you can press charges against her since she did grab you according to the security footage. And you know what? I said that I would like to press charges. Normally, I don't like to waste my time dealing with courts, but hours of my day were already wasted today, and I want her to know that she can't get away with it. A few minutes later, the manager offers to let me just go home with my groceries for free. Probably a bit scared that I might sue the store for discrimination or something, since I was so ready to press charges on the lady. On my way out, I saw them putting her into the back of a police car, and she was screaming profanities at the officers. I've already talked to an attorney who is in the process of obtaining the security footage. Court date is going to be in March, but should be pretty straightforward since the evidence is in my favor. I've never actually had to press charges like this before, so I have no idea what to expect. All I know is that even if she only ends up getting fined $1 or has to do even a minute of community service, I'll have a smile on my face. Anyway, that's been my crazy day. I know there are similar stories here of crazy Karens and stuff, and I always thought they were entertaining and would sometimes even think about what I'd do in a similar situation. My reaction certainly wasn't what I thought it would be though, and it wasn't as entertaining being on the receiving end of the story. At least I got some free groceries out of it though. I think this is one of the first stories where we've had somebody say yes to the "do you want to press charges" question, and we need to see this more often. How else are the Karens gonna learn? It's about time that a Karen has to face up to the consequences of their actions. Our next story comes to us from Please Don't Refer to Me. "Lady, please, I'm just trying to get cake ingredients." Let's jump right in. So this just happened an hour or so ago. My grandmother and I went out shopping to get ingredients for my birthday dinner and the cake I'm going to make. My birthday is in 2 weeks, but the ingredients we needed are on sale and most of them are canned, so we went to get them today. My grandma decided it would be faster if I were to take a basket and grab the cake mix and pineapple and any other mixes we needed at home, and she went to get the peas, orzo, and bacon bits. I found the pineapple cans pretty fast, so I had plenty of time to look at all the cake and brownie mixes. I had some music playing in my headphones, so I couldn't hear anything around me. While I was looking, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I assumed I was standing in their way and they needed something from the shelf I was looking at. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and stepped aside. I saw the lady start talking, so I pulled out one of my earbuds. "Can you help me find," whatever item it was, I don't remember. Me knowing where most of the items are, "Oh, that should be an aisle number unless they rearrange the store." "Well, aren't you going to show me where it is?" "Oh, sorry, I'm actually looking for cake mixes. I don't work here." I should probably note that most employees at this store wear vests, and I was wearing an olive green shirt I had just gotten for Christmas. "Don't lie to me, you obviously work here." She gestured towards my lanyard, which I have a picture of my late husky hanging on. It also has a key to my home, which I have just in case I get locked out. Me getting really anxious because I don't like confrontation. "Lady, please, this is just a picture of my old dog and a key to my home. I told you where your stage should be, so please leave me alone. You're making me uncomfortable." Lady getting irritated. "I'm not leaving you alone until you take me to where the item is." At this point, she had started raising her voice and had caught the attention of some people nearby. One guy who looked about my age walked up and asked if she was bothering me. Before I could get a word out, the lady started going off. "This young lady won't show me where item is." Other stuff I don't remember because I was trying to hold back tears. "Lady, she doesn't work here. She goes to my high school. I know her. Leave her alone." At this point, the lady spotted an actual employee and walked off to harass them. I thanked the guy who, for the record, actually does go to my school. I just didn't recognize him, and went back to picking out mixes. Did anybody else overlook the whole birthday dinner thing and was just thinking about cakes? And when they mentioned bacon bits, orzo, and peas, what kind of a cake are you making? If OP was almost in tears, I'm guessing they were quite lucky that somebody from their school was close by to help them get out of that situation. Our third story today comes to us from Throw Ralco. "Just take your warm wine coolers and go, Karen." Let's jump right in. I'm excited to type this story, so my apologies if it is all over the place. I've dealt with Karens before, but not like this. I never thought I'd encounter one in the wild. Last night, I took a trip to my local liquor store to get some bourbon for my apartment. I'll admit, I'm there often. The employees are cool, low-key, and most importantly, they don't judge me for frequent visits. I pick up a nice bottle and start reading the label when I hear a loud ahem behind me. I turn around and see a full-blown Karen. Like when I say this lady could be the mascot for Karens R Us, I mean it. Karen is holding a pack of blue, gross-looking wine coolers. She goes, "I'd like these cold." I chuckle politely. "Oh, sorry, I don't work here." I do a quick scan of the store and spot an employee a few aisles away stocking shelves. I point to him. It looks like he does, though. I turn back around and continue reading the bottle in my hand. Karen did not accept my response. Yeah, you do. I see you here all the time," she answered very rudely. I turn back, chuckle again, and say, "Yeah, they should hang a plaque in my honor for how much business I give them, but I really don't work here." I took my bottle and continued down the aisle. Karen followed closely behind me. She was definitely not social distancing. She scoffs, "Well, can't you just go look for me anyway, since you're here so often?" I was kinda shocked by this request. Like, what? I simply replied with, "I'm actually on my way to check out, but I'm sure that employee can help you." Before I could even finish, Karen huffed, "Judging by your appearance, you mustn't have a job or life to get back to so quickly. I swear, the level of respect these days is ridiculous." I was wearing sweatpants, so it's weird she thought I worked there in the first place. I didn't even turn around this time. I just laughed and said, "Whatever, lady, Godspeed." Karen did not like this one bit. "What did you just say to me, you little brat?" I knew I shouldn't fuel the fire, but I'm pretty sarcastic by nature, and I just couldn't help it. I turned to her for the last time and said, "Well, judging by your appearance, I wouldn't expect you to know how to treat people with basic human decency. I hope those wine coolers help heal whatever wounds are possessing you to act like a child. Fingers crossed you brought your ID." It looks like she malfunctioned. She just stood there dumbfounded with an awful grimace on her face. She slammed the wine coolers down on the floor and walked out of the store. I happily picked them up and brought them back where they belonged, earning a smile and a nod from the employee. Let me tell ya, the bourbon tasted even better after that. So it seems like OP got the message through to Karen that they actually didn't work there, but then Karen still wanted them to go find stuff. How entitled can you be? Also, if Karen sees you there all the time, doesn't that mean she's there just as often as you are? Our last story today comes to us from Rowan Bonus. "He doesn't work here. We just want to buy our stuff and go." Let's jump right in. For starters, me and my best friend have been friends for a long time, since we were like 13, 14. We're both the same age, 19, and are thick as thieves. There is a grocery store near our neighborhood, and we frequently go there if the gas station doesn't have what we are looking for. So me and best friend walk into the grocery store. We need marshmallows and something else I don't recall right now. Now for context, both of us wear alternative styles. I'm wearing a large, long hoodie, baggy black pants, and a tank top. My hair is dyed 2 colors, and I have a lot of facial piercings, something that is typically not allowed for store employees at this grocery store. Best friend is wearing something similar, all black getup and platform boots. He doesn't have piercings, but he is wearing eyeliner, so neither of us look like any of the store employees. We get our marshmallows and go looking for the next item. We find the aisle it's in, joking between each other like normal, when suddenly there is a loud, "Excuse me." Now both of us bristle at the tone. Being young, both of us having PTSD, so angry adults yelling at us is not something we enjoy. We both turn and look at what I can only describe as a textbook Karen. I'm talking dressed in athletic wear that was 2 sizes too small. The haircut. Worse was the giant gaudy turquoise necklace and matching earrings that clashed horribly with her outfit. She looked like she was somewhere around 50 to 60 years old. Best friend says, "Yes, ma'am," as she was obviously trying to get our attention and neither of us wanted to be rude at the moment. Plus, both of us have worked customer service and it was a habit. Karen rolls her eyes. "Finally, I've been trying to get your attention since you helped her." She points at me with her stuff. "Now, I need you to go check in the back for something that I honestly can't remember after this shit show." Best friend and me are staring at this woman like she grew 2 heads. How in the world could she possibly think he works here? Best friend replies with such, "Ma'am, I don't work here." Now you'd think this would be the end of it, but like many of the stories here, it wasn't. That set her off for some ungodly reason. And when I say she went from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds, I mean her face turned bright red, eyebrows nearly molded together with how hard she was scowling, and her fists were clenched so tight, I'm surprised her fake nails didn't cut her hands open. She points at best friend and in the nastiest, hateful tone I've only ever read about says, "Yes, you do. I saw you helping her." She then points to me and her finger was, I kid you not, an inch away from my face. Both me and best friend are very protective over each other. We've been best friends forever, and we don't like when other people make either of us uncomfortable. So best friend gently takes my shoulders and moves me away from her, reiterating that he does not, in fact, work here. He barely gets the words out before Karen shushes him, and I'm pretty sure there was spit flying. She had pulled her mask off at this point and started to scream at him. "God, your kind are all the same. No manners, no respect. How dare you pretend you don't work here? You obviously do." Best friend and me both look down at what he's wearing, mainly the 4 to 5 inch platform boots adorned with straps, buckles, and silver plating over the toe part, then at her. "Well, what do you have to say for yourself?" she screamed, like it was us who were in the wrong here. Not only were both of us upset at being yelled at for no reason, but we were particularly upset at referring to best friend as your kind. So we were dealing with not only a numbskull, but a racist as well. At this point, after staring at each other for around a minute, I find the courage to step forward and try to defuse the situation. "Ma'am, he really doesn't work here, and I'm trying really hard not to be angry right now, but you're being very rude, and I want you to leave us alone." Karen is having none of it. "Mind your own business, and as for you, I want your manager now." She looked like one of those naked mole rats, except angrier. At this point, we've already grabbed what we needed, and seeing as how we have no obligation to stay any longer, and certainly didn't want to keep dealing with this BS, we start walking off. We were quite literally astounded, trying to understand how she could have possibly thought best friend worked here. I mean, it was possible she'd seen us before in that store, and sometimes after getting off work we would go pick up a few items, still wearing uniforms, so I can kinda see how she might assume that, but even so, that was highly unlikely. Anyways, I hope that would be the end of it, but no dice. You hear her worn out sneakers squeaking rapidly against the floor before she sinks her talons into best friend's jacket and uses what I have to assume was all of her strength to pull him backwards. Normally, in those boots, best friend might have fallen, but his guard was all the way up, having had to deal with much worse than this, and he was able to stick his foot out behind him and stop himself from falling. His boot, however, and mind you, his boots are made out of thick, heavy rubber that weighs a lot more than you'd think, landed on the front half of Karen's foot. She lets out an ear-piercing yowl that reminded me of 100 burning mice. Best friend is now visibly angry, and so am I. He turns around with a very heavy glare, while I immediately grab her wrists and yank them off of best friend. The moment I touch her, Karen throws herself to the ground and starts screaming like she's being stabbed with a butter knife. I'm sure somewhere during this commotion, an actual store employee heard all the screaming and yelling and the crashing of a whole Monster Energy can display Karen took with her to the ground, because one showed up around the corner and looked visibly dumbfounded. Both me and best friend are internally panicking because we both look like two kids who just pushed an old lady to the ground. I try to ask this employee for help, we'll name him Dan for expediency's sake, and I barely get a word in before Karen stands up, acting like she's mortally wounded. "These two just assaulted me," she screamed in a very loud voice that made Dan cringe along with me and best friend. "I want him fired and both of them arrested. Call the police." I turned around to yell at Karen because at this point I was so angry at her, I wanted to put her into an armbar and break her elbow for putting her hands on best friend. But best friend stopped me and asked very calmly to speak to a manager. Karen was huffing and puffing, but she managed to continue her tirade. "No, I want to speak to the manager. You don't get to speak to the manager. You are a piece of shit and rude, and I'm going to have you arrested." Dan had taken best friend's request and quite literally ran with it, and soon enough, there was a manager following Dan back to the scene of the crime. The entire time best friend had put himself between me and Karen. The manager had an obvious customer service smile on his face and addressed us. "Hello, what's the problem here?" Neither of us even bothered opening our mouths because we predicted Karen launching into a loud rant. Sure enough, she instantly began to yell. "These two assaulted me. He called me names and I want him fired. And the police called." This is not an exact word for word, but basically she lied through her teeth. The manager looked at us, bewildered, as we helplessly stared back. Finally, he looks at Karen and calmly puts out his hands in the universal pose anyone in customer service knows as the calm down gesture. "Ma'am, neither of these people work here. They're customers just like you." This sends her into a rage, wherein she called best friend multiple racial slurs and insults me as she screams about how she wants the police called. She was assaulted, blah blah blah. Manager finally gets in a word and says he'll call the police just as soon as he watches the cameras to make sure what happened. Karen's face drops like she forgot cameras existed and turned pale once she realized how deep the crap she got herself into was. She quickly backpedals and tells the manager not to call the police. She has an appointment and just wants to go. I could see the look on the manager's face, mostly just his eyes. Everyone but Karen had their mask on, and I know he's probably realized by now, from her language and behavior, that she was probably in the wrong. So he turns to us and asks if we want to call the police. In a slightly unsure tone, I wanted to, but best friend says no, we just wanted to go as well. Karen looked relieved, which pissed me off further, but we bought our items and left. The end wasn't as satisfying as I wish it was. I really wanted to get back at her for the way she treated us, but I'm sure karma gave her what she deserved. To this day, I still don't understand how she came to the conclusion that someone wearing full gothic getup was a store employee. I hope she didn't drive herself to the store. Her vision must be terrible. OP, even if it ruins your day, call the police. File the charges, because these people are just going to continue to do this to other people. It's honestly the only way they're going to learn the lesson. Thank you to all 4 OPs for posting their stories in the I Don't Work Here Lady subreddit. They are linked in the description below. Please go check them out. Check out one of these other videos, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories.